It's that time again when you get updates from the world of business. Welcome to Business Incorporated. Here's what we have for you on the program today. And in Egypt, annual consumer price drops for December. It's down to 35.2%. Positive news coming from South Africa. Manufacturer sentiment is positive. Another good news from Zambia. The currency is set to rebound on investments. Good afternoon. Welcome to Business Incorporated. I'm Ini John Mekwa. We'll begin from the global space. Oil steadied on Wednesday, giving up earlier gains as Middle East supply concerns are rising from the Israel-Hamas war and the shutdown of a top Libyan oil field, which we reported yesterday. Balanced worries about weak economic growth. Brent crude futures, there we have the numbers. We can see is at $77.36 a barrel, and that's a drop of 0.3%. While WTI, that's the West Texas Intermediate crude, also went down 0.2% to $72.09. Eurozone growth has been hovering on either side of zero for most of 2023. It may have been in recession last quarter, and prospects remain weak. European Central Bank Vice President Luis de Guindos had said. More attacks on shipping in the Red Sea by Yemen's Houthi militia in support of the Palestinians on Tuesday, and potential disruptions to oil tanker flows in the area also lent support to prices. We still stay in the global space. It's grains now. Chicago soybean futures fell, shedding gains from the previous session, with forecasts of more rains in Brazil this week likely to further improve the maturing oilseed crop. Wheat and corn lost ground, with investors in agricultural markets focus on key U.S. reports on Friday for price direction. Wheat was down 0.4% to $6.07 for 3/4 of a bushel. Corn gave up 0.1% to $4.58 for 3/4 of a bushel. Weather charts pointed to more rain in the swath of Brazil this week before drier conditions will return next week. Recent rains have eased concerns over dryness, which had been threatening soybean crop yields in Brazil, which is the world's #1 exporter of oilseed. We'll come to Nigeria, where the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry has described President Bola Tinubu's recent decision to reduce the entourage size for both domestic and international travel by 60% as a decisive step to curb excessive travel spending and align with the need for financial prudence in the management of public funds. The LCCI is asking that the austerity measures extend to all federal ministry, departments, and agencies, as well as the offices of the president, vice president, and wives of both officials. The LCCI is of the view that there might be resistance from some government officials accustomed to larger entourages, and enforcing compliance could face challenges. Therefore, clarification on the sanctions for non-compliance would be essential to ensure effective implementation. So the LCCI is asking that the sanctions and consequences of disobeying that directive also be brought to the light. Now, the Director General of the Industrial Training Fund, Dr. Afiz Ogun, has announced plans to commence the formal registration of all artisans across the country. Dr. Ogun was speaking at a meeting with members of the Artisans Trade Association in the Federal Capital Territory. Explains that the move will help to fast-track its plan for training 20 million artisans over a 4-year period.
This meeting between the management of the Industrial Training Fund and members of the Artisans Trade Association is one which seeks to provide better opportunities for Nigerians who want their skills honed in their chosen field of trade. The ITF outlines the importance of registering their enterprises for better services at home and beyond the shores of Nigeria.
When you jump out with knowledge, when you jump out with skill, Nigeria will be better. Don't jump out to go and watch toilet or watch dead bodies. Jump out with skill from government to government. Then you can raise your shoulder. Who says Japa is not good? Japa is good if well managed, and that's what we want to do.
Part of the plan to engage artisans in the nation's socio-economic development is the training of 20 million Nigerians across all levels.
Thank you very much.
Outside the hall, the Director General of the Industrial Training Fund and some artisans speak on the intervention.
Inside this drum is where the production hub is, where we are going to take care of everybody stage by stage. And by the time they come out of that, some will come out as entrepreneurs, some will come out and go abroad, some will come out and get them good jobs. So those that go abroad, we come back, they'll bring dollars home. They transfer their money home. You understand? So economy is better.
We are looking at having maybe 1.5 from the total 5 million because we are going into the seized geopolitical zone. I'm taking the advocacy out there to the marketplace, to schools, to, in fact, this will also bring us into the lady mechanic after school club in public secondary school where we get them young.
The government has previously introduced policies which aims at benefiting artisans, but Nigerians will be keenly observing how this ambitious initiative unfolds in the days to come. Sarah Chimogu, Channels Television News.
Well, related to that is the issue of food security in 2024. Nigeria is expected to see about 26.5 million people grappling with high levels of food insecurity. Several factors are driving this trend, including ongoing conflict, climate change impacts, escalating inflation. We know that food inflation is presently at about 32.8%. Essential non-food commodities in part also contributing to that. There's also the factor of devaluation of the naira contributing to that. Fuel subsidy, we have not gone past that yet. Well, let's talk to someone who is directly involved. I know we've discussed the issue of food security like unending, but the truth is we haven't seen an answer yet. So we have joining us the Managing Director of OTAP Synergy Farms and Agro-Allied Limited, Mr. Salam Habib.
Good afternoon.
Excuse me.
Sorry. Good afternoon.
So talking about the issue of food security, Mr. Habib, we do know that the federal government or the president in July declared a state of emergency on food insecurity.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem that we've seen a whole lot happening along that line.
Obviously, I think everybody is aware that we're having food challenges in Nigeria. And that has been in existence for quite a long period of time. It's been there for decades. So the challenge has always been that we've not been able to meet up with the local demands for our food. And when we're talking about food security, we should be looking at three key issues. We should be looking at accessibility to food, affordability, and availability. Unfortunately, the agricultural sector in Nigeria has not been able to meet up with these three key drivers. Food is not affordable for any family in Nigeria as we speak. The inflation rates, in fact, most families spend more than half of their salary or income on getting food on their table. It's unfortunate that we have an economy whereby we are living below $2 per day, and you end up spending more on getting food to your table. So, of course, accessibility to food as well. Many Nigerians are not having that access to the required food that they want to have on their table. It's unfortunate that food is also not available due to so many challenges that we are facing that has hindered us. In fact, as a matter of fact, Nigeria has been declared as a nation that is food insecure because we cannot meet up with all these three key drivers.
We don't have the potentials. We have the farmland, we have the human resources, we have the weather, we have the seed, at least to an extent. And we've had a lot of pronouncements, especially the latest one, which is, the food insecurity, state of emergency or food insecurity by the president. But, I don't know, but I haven't seen steps, towards achieving that.
The last time I know that we have a Minister of Agriculture, I think is probably during the reign of Audu Ogbe. In recent time, we've not been able to have a minister who can articulate policy, who can deliver. And unfortunately, we have a backdrop in agricultural infrastructure. Nigeria is solely depending on rain-fed farming. Who does that in 21st century? No. We need to invest in irrigation. We need to invest in mechanization. We also need to take away the fact, we also need to find solution to the insecurity and continue conflict in most of our food baskets states that actually produce the food. Kidnapping is going on in the northeast, where we have, which is the major grain belt in Nigeria. The challenge of insecurity is there. A lot of people
was it not just yesterday, Benue State, that is the food basket of the nation?
Yes. So a lot of challenges like that, and coupled with the fact that the cost of farming is on the high. I have farmers by my side who have been doing 50 hectares of land 2-3 years back. Today, they can hardly struggle to do 10 acres.
Why?
Because there is high increase in the cost of pesticide, herbicide, fertilizer, and the sector is grossly unsubsidized. Everywhere, any nation that wants to produce whatever it consumes must subsidize agriculture. It has happened. It's happening just recently in Germany. 3 days ago, few days ago, you could see farmers coming out in thousands, coming on the street, on the major highway, bringing in their tractors from the hinterlands so that they want to protest and tell the government. The German chancellor wants to remove subsidy on a particular agricultural value chain, and the farmers say no. Just few days ago, the German chancellor said, no, we are not going to remove this subsidy. The agricultural sector is even rigged with corruption. As a farmer, for you to lay your hands on fertilizer, subsidized fertilizer, you have to pay through somebody to get it. For you to get pesticide seedlings, you have to pay through somebody. So the whole system is rigged, and we are not getting enough support from the government.
When you say you're not getting enough support, are you getting any form of support?
I don't think so.
Or perhaps it's for the big farmers.
I don't
and you
think
are not among the big farmers.
No, I don't. I'm a partisan farmer. I have my farm located in the village in Ede. That's where I stay. I wake up to go to the farm.
How big is your farm?
Yeah.
How much interaction do you have with the government, even if it's with the local government, so we know if you are even in communication, then we can talk about support getting to you, because sometimes the chain of the support from the government is so long that it doesn't get to those who are.
For instance, I just wrote an open letter to the state government of Osun State today. I wrote an open letter telling the governor the importance of agriculture in Osun State, how you can use agriculture to curb unemployment, how you can also use agriculture to improve the economy, how you can also use the agriculture to also do a lot of things. I wrote an open letter to the governor, but it seems that most of the governors in Nigeria presently are not even interested in agriculture. And I felt so bad, because in the next few years, I don't know.
So you such letters, do you expect response?
Yes.
Do you
at least reach out. At least reach out to somebody who says, I can give you
What about the commissioner for Agric in Osun State?
Well, in Osun State, I don't even...
Because the governor might be too busy with a lot of things.
I don't even think the commissioner for Agric is on ground. I've tried to see him a couple of times. I don't even think he's on ground. Well, I'm very much known in the agricultural sector in Osun State, but I've not met him. I've tried like a couple of times to meet the man. So, but I've not met, they are not just, it happens in every state. Let us even look at it from the micro level, from the local government. The local government, what are they doing to support the food ecosystem? On the norms, we're supposed to have national cooperative and rural development banks where small-scale farmers with 1 acre, 2 acre, half acres can easily reach out to and get their inputs from them. It's just like a credit facilities for farmer. We don't have it. The Bank of Agric presently in Nigeria is still operating in the old system. In fact, they are still using hand ledger. If you go there today, you can't get anything. The Bank of Agric is practically non-in-existence. That is supposed to be the farmer's bank. And it's not easy when you take loan from commercial banks, 31%, 35%, how do you pay that? It's crazy. It's just absolutely, it's something we really need to. We need sincerity of purpose. A minister, a governor, a commissioner, a local government chairman, it has to start from the bottom up. That's just the truth.
Okay, so I was excited when the president announced that, state of emergency. But what do you think would have made it impactful or effective? Other than the pronouncement, and I think he did say that issues around food security will be part of the Security Council conversations. I don't know how far that has gone or what has come out of that, if that's been holding, But what do you think should have backed up that pronouncement? Because unfortunately, Nigeria has come to be known as a country of policies and pronouncements without the necessary needed action, to back them up. And so that's why we don't see results. What do you think should have been those steps to follow up with that pronouncement to make it real to people?
Let me also quickly remind you that during the campaign of this president, he said something about agriculture, that there's going to be a marketing board. Up till this moment, there's nothing like a marketing board in existence. He said it during the campaign. Of course, he declared a state of emergency. Declaration. What follows? Nothing. Now, what do we expect? We expect massive infrastructural plan for farmers. The same way, even though the anchor borrower scheme was also rigged with corruption, but policies like that would definitely help farmers. Design policies where most farmers don't even need fund. What they need is inputs. What they need is that moral support. Oh, I need to do 10 acres. I can easily reach out to a place where I can get tractor. Okay, after finishing, we sign an MOU. After the planting season and the harvesting season, I can easily pay back. Those are policies that you can put in place. But you declare the state of emergency. The only thing that the minister has been doing so far that I know is the irrigation planting of wheat, the dry season wheat planting. That is only happening in the north. I think in Kebbi or somewhere in the north. That's only where activity is going on under the Ministry of Agriculture in Nigeria. Other states, other regions have been totally neglected. The only place you can see where there is little investment in irrigation is in the north. So the declaration is nothing but a political statement, as far as I know. More needs to be done. We need to declare and put action in places.
So the issue of mechanized farming is very essential, and unfortunately a lot of farmers are still dealing with the poor and just doing subsistence farming. I know that then, like in a state like Benue, you could go to the Ministry of Agric and rent tractors and all of that. Now, if we were to remove the government from the equation, is it possible to have private sector individuals? Maybe that's your business. You can come and hire, tractors and all of that. Is it possible? Is it happening?
Yes, it is. I have a few friends that have tractors and they are leasing it out to farmers, but it's still very expensive. To hire a tractor for 1 acre today you must have between 14 to 16,000 naira for just 1 acre. Because what? Because of the high cost of diesel. A diesel is about 1,050 naira today. So if you are going to do 1 acre, you are going to be using about more than 10 liters of diesel to plow 1 acre. So look at the mathematics. But what we are saying is this: if we have more tractors, definitely the price of hiring a tractor to plow will go down. We have few tractor hiring units that are privately owned, but when you also look at it, you also know that they can't stand the test of time, because the high cost of replacement spare parts is also there. They are struggling to repair, they are struggling to replace damaged spare parts. So that is the daily struggle of everybody that is investing in the agricultural sector. And that is the reason why we need the government to do more.
Obviously, we need the government to do more, especially since the president has said that he's very interested in food security. And then from the FAO, we see more than 26 million people at risk of being hungry this year. I don't think we want that to happen. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Otab Synergy Farms and Agro-Allied Limited.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Salam Habib.
Thank you very much.
All right. Let's take a break now. When we come back from the break, we'll head to the markets with Aniti Edet. Welcome back to Watching Business Incorporated right here on Channels Television. We head to the market where the expected has happened. I'm sure Aniti's mind will be more at peace now. Aniti, you're always scared when you see the market just ballooning and adding up. So at least we have profit taking now. Exactly. It looks very natural and gives you some kind of succor, yes?
Yes, well, you know, like I mentioned yesterday, I wasn't, I had to be vocal that I was scared about the market continuing to rise about 83,000 level, which I've never seen before. I don't know if you've ever seen that before on the local exchange.
Not the NGX.
Exactly. So, but when I spoke with one of the key market participants, he said, you don't expect the markets, any stock market around the world, to continue rising or to continue falling.
Obviously.
So so far, about we made about the market recorded about 1.57 trillion naira just yesterday, and in less than a week, or in about a week, about 6 trillion naira. And then, of course,
we're doing good.
Exactly. So I'll give you more details. Now, let's take a look at our board at intraday. This is where it turned out for the market. The market rose to about, that's the domestic stock market. It rose to about 11.26% year to date. That's starting from last week Tuesday to the close of midweek trading session. So this is what you had about intraday, which is sometime around 12 o'clock today, 1.53% pullback, and all the way from the 83,000 points, we're down at about, it's still fluctuating, the market is still in session, 81,917.75%. So that's it for that market. And when you take a look at the South Africa stock market, it's also down. Most of the markets across Africa, they were in the red, and no thanks to profit-taking activities. Take a look at the JSE there, 0.21% down. And then the other sides of that market within the region, we see the Egypt Stock Exchange also making a pullback, as well as the Kenya Stock Exchange. Now, we'll be talking at different markets. We will be all looking at other markets, but let's take a look at first the bonds, the Islamic bond market, which what you call the Sukuk. So that market is not all that vibrant, but this time let's give much more exposure to that market. And we'll be talking to Akpenwe Uputu, chief dealer at Lotus Bank, to tell us more details about that market. Thank you for joining us, Akpenwe.
Thank you for having us on the show.
Okay. Now, I have some questions for you. I think let's trim it down to about 3 questions because of time. Now, first, this stock market, the bonds market, or the Islamic bonds market, you're more of a fixed income dealer, but a chief dealer at Lotus. Now, tell us more about review the market, the Islamic bonds market, the whole of 2023. How much of the Sukuk was issued last year? We know that this bond is used for many developmental projects for the country and for the government, but tell us more about the depth of the issuance last year.
Okay, so for last year, the DMO was able to raise 350 billion in Sukuk issuance into the market. We saw oversubscription on that bond. This shows that investors are actually interested in knowing more about the Sukuk bond. So from 2017, when the Sukuk bond was first issued up until 2023, now we've seen over 1 trillion in Sukuk issuance so far, and investors are really looking forward to seeing higher yields in the market on the Sukuk bond. So a total of 350 billion was issued last year on the paper.
Okay, so that takes me to my second question now, which is the current yield. We talk about the fixed income market. We're going to talk about some other instruments of the fixed income market. Now, still on the Sukuk, what is the current yield or return, for the Sukuk, for Nigeria's Sukuk, and how does this compare to its peers around the world?
Okay, so for the 2023 Sukuk, which was the last, 2033 Sukuk, which was the last issuance, the rental was at 15.75%, but it is currently trading in the market at 14.8% level. So there's been volatility and demand for the paper recently, and so we've seen it trading actively. The 2033 bond, which is the alternative for the Sukuk, is currently trading at 13.8% level. So this makes the Sukuk bond very attractive. So we've seen investors clamor to buy at this current yield. So we've seen active trading on the paper.
Okay, so with all this performance, is there any rating assigned to it, any credit rating assigned to Nigeria's Sukuk? Because there should be some rating of some sort, maybe an A, a double A, a B, or is there any assigned to it?
Well, just like the normal other federal government instruments, the Sukuk bond is generally accepted. It's traded as much as the other bond papers you have. So it's a sovereign bond too, just like the federal government bond. So whatever we classify the bonds market and the bills, same way we classify the Sukuk bond. We have international counterparties who are actually interested in holding these papers, which you could also use for financing your other FX transactions. So the bond is actually generally accepted around the globe.
So I think we'll leave it there because of time, because we need to look at other markets. But we thank you so much for that, market, and we'll see you in the next couple of weeks from now. So
thank you very much.
You're welcome. That was Akpere Oputu, chief dealer at Lotus Bank, giving us details about the Sukuk bond, which is an aspect of the fixed income market. Now, take a look at your board there. We're looking at the Middle Eastern markets, still talking stocks there. For Abu Dhabi, we saw the Abu Dhabi, it has maintained 2 days of consecutive gains so far within the week. And this is because, according to a report by Bloomberg, the UAE is considering investing as much as $50 billion in India, its second largest trading partner. So at the same time, Gulf investors are poised to get their first regional exchange traded fund, which will be tracking the Indian equities. So that's why you see this market, both sides, both the Abu Dhabi index as well as the Dubai index, also in the green, 0.11% and 0.09%, as you can see on your screen there. Now let's move to the other side of the market. It's still green, except for Saudi Arabia's, what you call the Tadawul, Saudi Arabia's stock market index is called the Tadawul. So it was down by 0.32%, and then for the Qatar Stock Exchange, it's down up by 0.27%. Now let's move over to the another side of the market, what we call the US market. For the US market, stock futures, they were poised for a negative start, but that's coming after the market had recorded some gains. But then this is what you see for the stock futures. Later, the market will be opening at about 2:30 Nigerian time. 0.03% pullback for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and then for the stock for the S&P 500, we saw 0.14%, and for the Nasdaq 0.38%. And this is coming because at some point, investors will be looking out for the inflation data as well as some bank earnings. But for more details, let's join our Washington correspondent, Maria Bird.
The U.S. stock market was mixed on Tuesday, as the Dow Jones was down at 0.42%, the S&P 500 was down at 0.15%, and the heavy tech Nasdaq was just above flatline at 0.09%. The tech industry showed an early rally for the day, but then took a drop after reports of Samsung profit warnings. It is also clear that many investors were looking to see how the tech industry would rebound. As we all know that Boeing took a major hit after malfunctions on their 737 MAX 9. This has caused major challenges for the U.S. stock market, and we could see a very challenging week with mixed days in the weeks ahead.
So that was Washington. Okay, so that was our Washington correspondent, Maria Bird, giving us details about the U.S. market. And of course, that market, that's the world's biggest stock market. It is poised for a negative close or a negative start for the day, midweek trading session, but your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, well, another thing about the U.S. market is the election coming up later on this year.
Yeah.
That is also bound to, move some things in that market in the coming months. I know the inflation numbers are looking all right, comfortable for them, but, I think that uncertainty that goes with the elections will also be a factor to look out for the market.
And in November, it's actually the December election, so we'll be looking out for it for tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anita.
Pleasure.
Well, let's head to London now, where artificial intelligence is back in the news. Misinformation, disinformation, driving artificial intelligence. And we're told it to be one of the biggest short-term risks for global economy. Let's find out how real this is in the United Kingdom with Juliana Olainka. Hi, Juliana. Good afternoon.
Absolutely right, and it kind of dovetails from what you were just talking about with Aniete there, which is elections, and that's the backdrop of what the World Economic Forum have put out today in their annual global risk report, as you quite rightly said, looking at some of the short-term geopolitical risks to the global economy. And ahead of their meeting at Davos, the Swiss ski resort, next week, they have said that considering over 60% of the population are going to be heading to the polls at some point this year, there is a real fear that not taking control of artificially intelligence-led disinformation, misinformation creeping into communities and societies that are already fractured is going to be a significant problem. Of course, we've got the world's biggest election, which is, the race to the White House in November. But then there are other huge ones, including here in the UK. We're expecting one in the second half of this year, as well as in India, of course, later in the year, and across the EU. So it's a massive concern, and I think that is certainly going to be dominating talks in Switzerland next week. Channels Business Global will, of course, be on the ground. But, a lot's going to be expected out of Davos, because this is the first time in a couple of years that they've really been able to actually sit down, because, of course, it was disrupted due to COVID, and then there were delays last year. We have significant wars in the Middle East, in Europe, and of course on the African continent. Not great that short term it's all about artificial intelligence. But then, of course, if you take the conversation a little bit wider, another major concern is extreme weather and climate change,
Yeah, well, I don't know how we're going to balance it in the world, but we have to find a way. But let's look at the markets now and see how that's doing. Is there profit taking as it is in Nigeria this time?
Profit taking, but still very much in the red. We got that annual global risk report, which we've just been speaking about from the WEF. But then there's also the World Bank. The World Bank have put out a forecast of global economic growth, and it's lower than anticipated. I think it's down at 2.9%, though I do need to have a look at that data specifically. That's not cheered investors. And then we've also had some corporate data. We had some trading data from Sainsbury's, as Britain's second largest supermarket. Mixed bag, actually. They had a great festive period, but again, with what's happening in the Red Sea, that is going to have an impact on shipping and orders. So to have a look at the numbers, the all share is down by 0.13%, the FTSE 100 down by 0.23%, FTSE 250 up by a smidgen at 0.07%. In the currencies market, the British pound is currently trading up against the US dollar by 0.14%, though down against the euro by 0.05% and up against the Japanese yen by 0.43% in A.
Oh, thank you so much, Juliana, and do enjoy the rest of your day. From the UK, we move to Europe, where German retailer Galeria has long dominated Germany's inner cities with its huge stores. Now the company has filed for bankruptcy, and not for the first time, I must add. But we have Lars to tell us what's going on and what has driven this at this time. Hi, Lars. Good afternoon. So what's really behind this bankruptcy announcement by Galeria?
Thanks for having me, Ini. Well, let's first look at what Galeria actually is. The company is a real giant of the business. It used to run up to 172 stores. Currently, it's just over 100 with 15,000 employees. And those stores are massive, multi-story department stores with restaurants and whatnot. They are usually the anchor of every city's shopping district. And they were bringing in around 2.5 billion euros in annual revenue. And yet, this is the company's third insolvency in just under 4 years. Initially, there were the kind of problems you would think plague any retailer: falling revenue in brick-and-mortar stores, lost market share in a competition with online retailers like Amazon, for example. And, well, obviously, COVID hit the sector hard. But most recently, another factor played a role in Galeria's bankruptcy. The company was fully owned by Austria's Signa Group, and a few weeks ago, Signa itself went belly up, drowning in debt. With Signa's bankruptcy now, Galeria's problems grew. First of all, the company can no longer count on a 200 million euro payment from its parent company that was part of a much-needed restructuring. But there's also rising rent, there's higher interest rate payments as banks were hesitant to work with the group. In the end, it was just too much to handle for the company.
So does it look like they will survive?
Yes, there is. Galeria at this point hopes to find an investor and take over the entire company, and that is not unlikely, especially since Galeria has been very public about the fact that it wasn't the current business that forced them into bankruptcy, but it was rather legacy problems. Currently, they're saying business in all stores is actually good, and despite the general problems the retail sector is having, some of which I've just mentioned earlier, it seems that with a little bit of innovation, their stores can probably remain the bustling center of German cities for years, if they are at some point no longer held back by the troubles at Signa.
I wonder how this is affecting investors' sentiment.
Yeah, crypto is a big topic today. Let's have a look at Bitcoin. That's been on the rise for a few months now, climbing in value from around $25,000 in October to $45,000 right now. It was all based on investors' hope that the SEC in the United States will greenlight a crypto-based ETF, an exchange-traded fund. That's an investment vehicle that could be seen as much more stable than one crypto itself, and it would most certainly attract a lot of money. Now, the SEC actually has approved such a fund, at least according to its Twitter account. Bitcoin shot up immediately, but it was fake news. The SEC's account had been hacked. There is at this point no approval for such a fund. The SEC is investigating the incident. Bitcoin has dropped back to its pre-tweet level. But one thing is certain, investors are keeping an eye on the story. A lot of people are still expecting approval of a crypto ETF.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Lars. I have to say, everybody's spinning on the Bitcoin ETF. I don't know how it's going to end. I hope we have it soon so we can see the other side of it. Well, just before, I know Laddie's itching, to feed on that, but you'll have to wait for a bit as we go to South Africa, where the PMI sentiment among South Africa's manufacturers turned positive for the very first time in 8 months. And that happened in December. Absa Bank's Purchasing Managers Index, compiled by the Bureau for Economic Research, climbed to 50.9 from 48.2 in November. The gauge, which tracks manufacturing sentiment in the country, rose above the 50 mark for the first time since April, effectively escaping contraction in an industry that accounts for about 14% of Africa's most industrialized economy. Well, let's have our correspondent in South Africa, Innocent Semosa, captured it in this report.
South Africa's manufacturing sector has seen some improvement. This has been prompted up by more robust business activity and less intense rolling power cuts during the festive season. However, Electricity Minister Hosienchu Ramhoba says no guarantee of a load-shedding-free future.
The system still remains unreliable. We are working on these units, so I can't stand here and say to the country that now there will not be load shedding going into the future. And that's why when the alert goes out, it says no load shedding until suspended, until further notice, because we have no control on some of these units. They are extremely unreliable.
Meanwhile, economist says despite this peak, the country's economic outlook remains bleak.
I will be surprised to see if we can grow this economy faster than 1%. So I think we're sort of stuck in a rut in South Africa where economic growth is likely to remain at most at 1% and probably less than that for quite some time until we make some dramatic changes as far as policy and the efficiency of the state is concerned.
And we expect these improved conditions to persist throughout 2024. And so we are still forecasting some improvement in economic growth this year versus last year. However, in the manufacturing sector in particular, we are still cognizant of the remaining constraints, and in particular, the weakness in fixed investment over the last number of years, which will place a ceiling on further expansion in this sector.
Entrepreneur Kuti Bolaji says load shedding is negatively impacting his business.
Not having electricity costs us a lot. The cost of running a generator is too high, especially when you are using diesel. So with light, proper lighting, or what we say, without load shedding, business will run fine. If there's load shedding, maybe in a week, I spent almost about 3,000 rand on the diesel. It's a serious setback because not only that, you need to get oil, you need to really service the generator, and the problem of even getting, when at times when you don't have diesel, it's a problem. So we run at a loss when we are using. And you see, running with generator also affects our machine a lot.
Well, the business community and economists in the country agree that the power cuts are a huge impediment for structural transformation in the country. But of course, we now know that the government says it's working around the clock to resolve the issues of power cuts. But the progress has rather been slow. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Oh, thank you, Innocent. We move to Egypt, where the annual urban consumer price decreased to 35.2% in December in 2023, and that's down from 36.4%. Its official statistics agency, CAPMAS, reported this. The data also reveals that there was a drop in the price of meats and poultry by 1.7%, fruits by 4%, vegetables by 3%, and services by 1.4%. Moreover, the cost of food and the largest single component of the inflation basket decreased to 6.1%, according to the agency's data. More good news now from Zambia, as the currency will recoup losses against the dollar, largely because of expected capital investment in two of its key mining assets. And then the Minister of Finance has warned currency speculators should be careful, as the Kwacha is about to make a counterattack, not through imagination, but because tangible money is going to come into the economy. Those are the comments of the minister, and he shared this on the ministry's X account. So good days coming up for Kwacha, according to the minister. And now the moment that Lad Williams has been waiting for, because we can't get enough of the Bitcoin ETF. Laddie, everybody's feeding on your news now. Right. From SEC has something to say about it in Berlin. It is a topic everywhere.
Yeah,
you know?
It's quite interesting.
And somebody used fake news. Somebody fooled us. That was
directly from the US SEC's X account.
That's so. I mean, that's a lot.
You get news from there and you believe it's
yes, and somebody was able to do that.
You hear I think
this is how sometimes they move the market.
Yeah.
You know, either take it up or take it down.
Exactly.
But, you know, because
it's all
of
about
course
news.
The market feeds on news.
Yeah, and that's why we're seeing red, at this point, after the SEC says, you know what, our account was compromised. So that wasn't really, we don't have an approval
hope we will believe
yet at this point.
When it really
when the
happens.
approval really comes.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't come on April 1st.
I hope so.
Because we will not believe it. Ethereum is right there, 2,400. It's doing pretty well at this point. 5.59% jump. Definitely, there's going to be some kind of ETF for Ethereum after BTC, gets approved. But all eyes is on Bitcoin at this point. So we're seeing a mixture right there in the crypto market, looking at Coin 360, some red patches and green too. Let's look at the top headlines this morning. Yeah, there you have it. The US SECX account that was compromised after there was a tweet confirming that a Bitcoin spot ETF was approved. Then we saw the US Securities and Exchange Commission handle come out to say the X account was compromised and an unauthorized post was posted. The SEC has not approved the listing and trading of a spot Bitcoin exchange traded product, and we got some responses to that from Pratal Shaw there. It says the SEC is meant to protect us from market manipulation, but can't protect its own Twitter from manipulating the market. Very funny word there. So other headlines we see in the market, we see Binance Kraken have been removed from the Apple App Store in India. Yeah, India is still cracking down on crypto. There are strong, strict regulations, they're having there. So they say some of these exchanges have compromised some of their rules when it comes to money laundering and reporting what the customers do there at the exchange. Other stories, we've seen 9 billion Shiba tokens have been burned. That's the cryptocurrency for Shiba Inu there. That's one of the top meme coins in the market. There's been a lot of burning of tokens there. And most of the time when they burn some of these tokens, they're trying to reduce the amount of tokens in circulation, and somehow that impacts the prices going forward. Let's bring in Sheon Dania now, CEO Alpha Geek Technologies, join us via Zoom. Great to have you on the show.
Hello, Ladi. Good afternoon.
Fantastic. Happy New Year. So, Sheon, we did get an approval, by SEC, with the SEC came out and said, you know what, that did come from us. Our account was compromised. So can we call it a disapproval at this point?
Technically, it's not a disapproval. It's until we get the the details of what exactly happened. It's just it goes to show that people need to always be very vigilant within every industry, even cryptocurrencies, anything trading. So we also need to always understand the risks associated with trading these things. In all fairness, the fundamentals of Bitcoin hasn't changed. The correction was expected. However, it's still highly it highlights the volatility inherent in cryptocurrency and emerging asset class. So people just need to be careful. The approval will or may not come, but we just need to either hold the SEC more responsible. We can't exactly call it market manipulation, but they know they should spend more time on ensuring their cybersecurity is top notch.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. The US SEC actually confirming that they don't have two-factor authenticator on their Twitter account. Quite interesting. At this point for such a massive institution. But looking at it, at this point now, when you get most of these information at this point, let's say they finally come out with an approval, that means you do not take action, when you see the first tweet. You have to wait for a couple of minutes or another reconfirmation, going forward. How do you handle, most of these issues, especially, being a trader in this market? You're out there trying to make profit. You make profit from the first announcement, then the second one comes and you're down.
Like I said, the fundamentals haven't changed, so as a trader, it's very important that everybody always says, we follow the news, you should follow the news, which is very important. But you need to project ahead of time and not wait for that actual time, So anyone who has already figured out, this information has been out there a long time ago that there's already work in progress, for approvals of these ETFs. And earlier on in the year, Bitcoin was below 30 grand. So if anyone who's trading, who's actually looking to cash in on that, they're bought in at that point. So even at the rate that we're currently now, which is, slightly below 45K, you'll still be in profit. The trading for cryptocurrencies and most assets, especially Bitcoin, is a long-term play. People would definitely want to day trade or swing trade, to make quick profits, but we should always put our eyes. This might just be a temporary setback, but definitely the forecast for Bitcoin is still very strong.
Yeah, and what do you see, at this point? Do you see this approval coming soon?
So what I see is that it is not going to derail the SEC. They've been in advanced stage already reviewing all the ETF proposals. And definitely there's a strong demand for Bitcoin without a doubt. While the SEC would increase their scrutiny, right now they can't just make another announcement. The industry it should also help with their own evaluation criteria. For all it could have just been a test to say, okay, how well does the market move to news, and everybody should but the SEC needs to focus on, ensuring that the investors' funds are safe and also to ensure market integrity. This, for all if you ask me, it might just be it could have been one of the tests that the SEC was carrying out, which will help them in understanding how the markets will actually react.
Right, and definitely the market did react. Thank you so much for coming on. Shehu Daniel, CEO, Alpha Geek Technologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so there you have it.
Yeah, I think she'll just put another idea in our head. Exactly. What if the SEC just did it on purpose, to see how the markets will react?
Right.
That would be really naughty,
Very, very naughty. And I guess at this point, if you get any announcement, even from a verified handle,
they have to check it out.
Wait for a reconfirmation. Yeah. I guess that's
because if the SEC could say that they were compromised,
yeah.
Leaves a lot to be desired.
I'll be watching your account. I hope you don't get compromised.
All right, Ladi, thank you. Well, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of Business Incorporated today. So many interesting stories we had. So you can go back to the conversation on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/channels, where food security, our government will really need a lot of help. We need to eat to stay alive and healthy. I'll see you for the Stock Market Report at 10. I'm John McQuarrie.